of the Memphis City Council to order. Ms. Mauricio, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Ford Sr. Present. Councilwoman Green. Present. Councilwoman Walker. Present. Vice Chair Swearingen Washington.
Present.
Councilman Dr. Warren. Present. Chair Carlisle.
Present. The chair is here, observes a quorum. Colleagues, we are in budget wrap-up. Under our new rules, we have calendared items. I am going to basically make a motion to suspend the rules to add the resolutions that were here so that we can deal with them today. I do appreciate members taking the time and putting them in and getting them filed. And so that's what we're going to do. As I had mentioned before, we have a second wrap-up scheduled for Monday, June 2nd at 2:30 p.m., I believe, and then kind of on an as-needed basis. There will be a follow-up. Your staff will be getting with you next Wednesday or shortly after this for next Wednesday to see if you can get some one-on-ones with directors you'd like to meet with. Again, I know we've spent a lot of time on the operating budget. I would use that opportunity to talk CIP as well, specifically with the division directors themselves and Chief Adams and his team on the stuff that maybe goes through multidisciplinary lines. With that being said, let's get to the main event. I'm going to carry this one for her. And I really just want to say for the record, I really appreciate Councilwoman Easter Thomas. She's unable to be here and on the second. These resolutions are important to members and they should have the right to bring them forward. But she acquiesced to the city council's rules. So I'm going to read this in and I'm going to hop on as a co-sponsor with her because I told her that from the dais that we would carry this and she was very respectful of that, so I'm grateful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. A resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement program budget. First, before I get going, do you guys have copies of these? No. You guys don't have any copies of these? All right. We're gonna take a 10-minute reset. Yeah, I'll tell you what. This one's simple. This one's gonna be a simple one. Resolution 3, they need a copy of as soon as you've got that one, right? 3. Oh, okay. You guys have copies of that. Okay, we're good. Sorry, I just want to make sure that they were reading the same thing. I apologize. All right, here we go. You don't have a copy. You got to talk to your staff member. All right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to recess for 5 minutes. All right, the budget committee is called back into order, or back into session, sorry. All right, here's the deal. Resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement program budget. This is I'm gonna read the resolving language. Now therefore be it resolved that the Memphis City Council hereby amends the capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2026 by reducing $3,750,000 from the Ed Rice Community Center Banquet Edition, project number titled New Request for fiscal year 2027. The deduction shall be moved to a new line item titled North Frasier Community Center Renovations. This line item shall be effective upon approval of this resolution and incorporated into the fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance. Be it further resolved that any allocation or readjustment from this line item to another project must receive prior approval from the Memphis City Council sponsor, Michael and Easter Thomas. May I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Moved by Warren, seconded by Vice Chair JSW. This has been moved to the floor. Are there any questions or comments? Yes. Yes, any members wishing to be added as co-sponsor? All right, I see Ford and Warren and me. Michaelin has simply, Councilwoman Dr. Easter Thomas stipulated this from the dais. There is a project that is already on the books that was in addition to the Ed Rice Community Center. As the local representative, we did Ed Rice and we did the library. There is another northern, I'm looking at the mayor to make sure I'm getting that. There is a northern community center in the north part of Frasier, and she would, instead of calling a new request, would like that center to receive that funding instead of the addition. Fantastic. All right. Seeing no other members in the queue, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? This item passes. All right, everybody, moving along. Hang tight out there. Hang tight. All right. I am going to recognize Vice Chairwoman Swearingen Washington on item number 2, unless you'd like me to read it into the record, Council Vice Chairwoman. It's up to you. Yes, ma'am. Floor is yours.
Yes, we did have a line item for the pool in Glen View, but we wanted to make sure that it was specified in the budget book. So the bottom would say, now therefore be it resolved that the Memphis City Council hereby amends the capital improvement program for fiscal year 2026 by remaining the PKTBD to be determined indoor aquatics facility project titled PKTBD to the Glen View Community Center Indoor Aquatics Facility for fiscal year 2027. This line item will be effective upon approval of the resolution and to be incorporated into the fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance. Be it further resolved that any allocation or readjustment from this line item to another project must receive prior approval by the Memphis City Council, sponsored by myself, Chairman J. Ford Canale.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. May I have a motion and a second to move, or actually moved by JSW, second by Dr. Warren. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Yes, I would too, if the Vice Chair will have me.
I would love to add you.
Thank you. Down the dais, all right.
Okay.
Seeing no members in the queue, no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same rights and privileges. Seeing none, the ayes carry the day. See, it's just that easy, guys. And here comes 3. All right, I'm going to read the caption and then the motion, and then I'm going to turn it over to the sponsor. I think that's probably should have done it the last time. Wait, are you ready?
No,
right.
I just wanted to say they're getting the finalized copy.
All right, then I'm going to skip.
Can we,
is it cool?
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Perfect. Thank you to the sponsor. Moving down the calendar, Dr. Warren, I'm going to read, Dr. Warren is the sponsor. I'm going to read in the caption and then move it to the floor. You know what? No, I'm not. Jeff, Dr. Warren, the floor is yours. If you'll read your caption, your resoluting language, and then any comments.
Thank you. This is a resolution to amend the fiscal budget 2026 capital improvement budget. Whereas the mayor submitted a budget to the council on April 8th, and our proposed operating budget and capital improvement budget for the fiscal year ending July 30th, 2026. And whereas The Budget Committee of the Council has held meetings and thoroughly reviewed the recommended operating capital improvement budgets and will make approved revisions thereto. And whereas the City Council has identified the need for funds to be allocated to projects that serve the city and significantly contribute to its growth and development, therefore now it be resolved that the City Council hereby amends the capital improvement program budget for the fiscal year 2026 by making an allocation of $1.5 million from the asphalt paving cover line. The deduction shall be moved to the new line item titled Rock and Soul Museum Relocation. This item shall become effective upon the approval of this resolution being incorporated into the fiscal budget 2026. Be it further resolved that any allocation or readjustment for this item to another project must receive prior approval by Memphis City Council, sponsored by me, Jeff Warren. And I so move and would like to discuss if available.
Is there a second to that motion? So moved by Warren, seconded by Ford. Dr. Warren, the floor is yours.
Yes, as you know, we're getting ready to spend about $600 million to upgrade the FedEx Forum. Currently, the Rock and Soul Museum has been part of that forum since its inception. It was, I think, people donated to move it here. This is a very specific museum, actually having a Smithsonian collection in it that was donated to us by the Smithsonian Institute that officially, proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the blues and rock and roll originated in Memphis and the surrounding Delta and expanded to the rest of the world. As we're expanding the FedEx Forum, the Grizzlies need more room. There is a spot on Beale Street, the old Hard Rock Cafe, which I think at one point was a Lansky store, all historical Memphis, that this particular organization has purchased and is going to move in. I am hoping that we can help them in their $26+ million project by giving $1.5 million twice, and then and then the remainder of the $5 million on the last or the third year of this project. So with that, I move this to the floor for our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Here are my initial comments. I understand where you're at. Now we've identified something that you desire to fund. I mean this with all the love and respect. I don't think you're going to find 7 votes out of the asphalt cover line. I will say,
question is, I don't think we've used all our asphalt cover line every year.
I'm going to repeat. It's a roll forward cycle. We can stare each other in the face. I can bring it to a vote and we can find out.
Okay.
But what I tell you is I think it's going to be tough, and I'm not trying to fight you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the project. I appreciate what the Rock and Soul's done, and I think that they've found and located a wonderful location on Beale Street. Again, I don't think the asphalt cover line. I will say this for me, we've given about $30+ million to the Brooks. While I think we should cut $1.5 million of the Brooks funding for this year and stick it into the asphalt cover line or the fleet line, or somewhere where it's a basic service of government while we're looking at a tight budget this year, I'll offer you this. If you want to go and move $1.5 million from the Brooks to fund Rock and Soul, I'm down for that. But we just can't keep dumping cash into museums. We got to start doing revenue generating returns or basic services.
Well, as we're looking at this $600 million project, I'm coming up with some place that looks like we have extra funds.
You don't.
It makes, it's your opinion, and I agree. So, you can say it like it's definitive, but I think
Chief Person, are there extra funds in the asphalt paving line? Are there surplus funds?
Hi, Walter Person, CFO, 125 North Main.
Mr. Person, did we spend all of our asphalt funds this year?
Well, to the budget.
Were they used?
All the funds were not spent, but those funds are sorely needed for asphalt paving.
I agree they're needed, but we didn't use them. We didn't have the capacity to use them all, and I'm trying to find money that we potentially could use for something down the road that's going to be moving. That's my thinking. So it's the answer that I wanted to know is we didn't spend those funds. So as much as I would like to have spent all those funds putting it into asphalt, if there's $1.5 million that we didn't spend and we're probably not going to spend this year, it seems like it's a reasonable move. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I don't want to go back and forth. I have to explain this. I want everybody to hear this. Guys, this is important to everyone involved in budgeting. This is June This is July. This is one fiscal year. This is the other fiscal year. The world does not stop in between these two dates. There is still paving and ongoing contracts and ongoing potholes. So if it's, quote, not encumbered or not expensed, it has to go towards paving. And that's why we have carry forward, both in our CIP and in our operating budget. Again, Dr. Warren, respectfully, no one is against, or I'm not necessarily against trying to find funds for the Rock and Soul. I'm trying to advise you, I don't think that the asphalt paving line in a city that is on a 40-year paving cycle is the place you're going to find the political support for it. That's the best I could say. That being said, I've got Vice Chairwoman Swearengin Washington in the queue.
I know Dr. Warren thinks that the Rock and Soul Museum is a great idea, and it may be. But I know that I got at least 3 phone calls a day about potholes in the streets. I could not in good conscience support that. We need that. It's going to be ongoing, whether it's raining, whether it's snow. We are in the transportation hub with all these big trucks tearing up the roads all the time. A lot of the claims, even that Chief Tanera Gibson was talking about, they get so many claims because of the roads. In good conscience, I just can't see us taking $1,500,000 from that.
But
No.
I guess my whole thing was, until we can actually prove we can spend the amount of money we put in it, by putting that amount of asphalt down, we shouldn't just be having that money sitting around not doing anything, because that's what I'm worried about.
Thank you. And sometimes you need discretionary funds available so that we can continue to fix our roads for our constituents. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman. Any other members which should be recognized? Seeing none. All members in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay.
Nay. Nay. Nay. Nay.
Yep, we're going to do a roll call vote. I think it's in the opinion of the chair that the nays have it, but
I agree.
All right, then we'll forego that. This item fails. That being said, to the sponsor, I will cognizantly, as we go through this budget season, keep that in mind. And if an opportunity presents itself now or throughout the fiscal year, I'm happy to know, and I'm glad that you put it out there for the public, that this is an important initiative that's going on downtown. I think that's a reasonable thing, and I appreciate the
Maker of the
sponsor.
motion would definitely appreciate any assistance in finding additional funds as we go through this process.
Will they
Thank
put
you,
a
Mr. Chairman.
toilet on the side of the museum, though, for use?
I will make sure of it.
All right. All right. Do I have the sponsor of the last? Could I tell you what? Yep, if it's okay with you, I'm going to do 5, and then we'll roll back to 3. Okay. We're going to move on to resolution number 5. This is a resolution sponsored by Councilwoman Cooper Sutton, who could not attend today as well. I am going to read the amendment, the resoluting language, and then we will go for there. What I would say for this one is I'm going to delay a vote so that the maker of the motion, I'm going to read into the record, and I'm going to delay discussion and debate so that the sponsor, of the resolution has an opportunity to walk through it, answer and ask questions, and be here to defend that resolution. So for that, that's how we're going to do it. Resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 operating budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Memphis City Council hereby amends the operating budget for fiscal year 2026 by reducing $250,000 from the neighborhood improvement 00111 general fund line number titled, quote, 052528 miscellaneous professional services, end quote, for $250,000 for fiscal year 2026. The deduction shall be moved to a new program for establishing a community incentive program to encourage reporting and the prevention of illegal dumping in Memphis neighborhoods. This line item shall be effective upon approval of this resolution and to be incorporated into the fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance. Be it further resolved that the Memphis City Council hereby amends the operating budget for fiscal year 2026, that the Neighborhood Improvement Division be renamed Community Enhancement Division, reflecting the intent of ordinance number 5948. Be it further resolved that any allocation or readjustment from this line item to another project must receive prior approval by the Memphis City Council. What I would like to entertain is hang tight, is a motion to accept the resolution. Moved by Ford, seconded by Walker. All those in favor of the Budget Committee accepting the resolution to be returned for debate signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same rights and privileges. This item has been accepted and shall be placed for debate on our next wrap-up session. Thank you to Councilwoman Cooper Sutton. Moving back to what seems to be the main event, all the undercards are done. Guys, we can have fun while we're all white knuckling. All right, I've got resolution number 3. I've got the sponsor here, so I'm going to acknowledge the sponsor because I think we're pretty much good. A lead sponsor. So this is a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 operating budget. Can I have a motion to move it to the floor? Second. Thank you. Been moved by Ford, seconded by Vice Chair JSW. Councilwoman Green, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks to those who have already had a chance to look it over and have agreed to co-sponsor, especially thanks to Councilman Spinoza, who worked very diligent with me this weekend and to hours in the night to make sure that we had this right for you. There are a couple things highlighted on here. There were some typos, and so we just adjusted those, and that's why you see highlights. But I'm going to walk you through these. I'm also, as much as I can, give you page numbers in your budget book so that you can go back and look at them for yourselves. But in essence and overall, what this is a way for us to do what I would call responsible budgeting. And in this tight year, we've got to make sure things are aligned. Also, we want to make sure the state comptroller stays out of our business. So we're trying to put things back into the general fund. And then also to generate some revenues because we have the impasse and that was approved last night. So this is a way for us to pay for that and to do some other things to be a little bit more responsible with our budgeting and have some more public accountability in our budgeting process throughout the year. It also does not raise taxes. This would put us exactly where we are right now as far as the tax rate once it's readjusted at the state rate. So I say all that to say, if you have questions about any of these bullet points, happy to try to answer them for you. If you still feel like this is not enough of a buffer, please let me know and we can talk about the tax rate. But the grand total, so you know before I walk you through all of this, is a change in the operating budget, reducing expenditures by $36,940,000 and an increase in revenues of $27,500,000. For a grand total of $66,440,000 being returned to our reserve fund. That doesn't mean it's going away. Also, let me say that as we walk through some of this. If any of this is vital and necessary, the administration has the ability to bring a motion to us and have us be able to vote on the monies. So. As far as our responsible budgeting, these are the first sort of dots and bullet points. The first is located on page 7. It's a group life insurance reduction. We adjusted it down in the amount that you see there, about $500,000. That is based on the FY24 actuals and the FY25 proposed. Again, if you look at those line items on page 7, you'll be able to see where we pulled that money from. The second one is on page 55. That is the Animal Services Division. If you recall during their presentation, Animal Services has 18 vacancies currently. 3 positions in Animal Services are funded by ARPA. ARPA dollars are going away. We can't, predict that we're going to continue to be able to do everything we always did with ARPA. And so this is just removing 3 vacancies moving forward. The next one can be found on page 48, and that is the mayoral grants and subsidies. The budget book shows that we have $0 that was in this line item the last couple of years, and this year it jumped up to $650,000. We're taking it back down to 0. Again, responsible budgeting. We're saying we're holding everything flat. That's what we're doing. If the mayor has grants and subsidies, just like we do, we put it to a public process and a public vote, and we certainly would, entertain other grants that he would bring forward, because I'm sure they would be for the good of the community. The next one is on page 106, the Family Safety Center. Sad news, and news to several people when I talked to them, the Family Safety Center closed. And so this is a line item that's $450,000. We've taken it down to 0 because it just does not exist. And just in my day job, and that kind of that has been absorbed by the county. So for those victims that are out there that still need services, please know that you're still receiving services. The next line is the Affordable Housing Fund. That's on page 106. It is at $3.6 million. Last year, we also removed this and put it into general fund. We're moving it back to general fund. Again, we just don't have anything that's ready to go. No projects that are live. We're not saying that we wouldn't vote for them, but for now, we're going to move it back into fund reserve to help our overall balance. The next one you'll see highlighted, and then you'll see it down there at the end. Again, that was just a typo. This is what I would just call some responsible budgeting. Dues, memberships, and periodicals. We've reduced it by $150,000. It was well over $400,000. I tried to look at some various divisions. This is across all divisions. I tried to look at some various divisions that I thought would be using these, like IT and the library, and they are holding steady, and their amounts were like $1,000 or $25,000. The mayor's office, the executive office, actually has many hundreds of thousands in this line item. I'm just taking it back to what it was last year again. The next and the final in this section is on page 106, and that is the Memphis Area Transit Authority. Currently, it is sitting at $30.6 million. We have proposed that we fund them through the end of the year at $15.335 million. Again, the rest of this money returns to fund reserve, and at such time as MATA presents us with a budget and an audit. Somebody turn my mic off? Okay. At such time that MATA presents us with a budget and an audit that we've been asking for over a year, we will consider releasing the rest of the funds. And these total up to $25,500,000. The next section is about revenues. The revenues that we have proposed, the first one, it's on page 2, is our state taxes. We have added in $4 million in that projection and the proposed revenue. Again, we are just taking it to the 2025 level. We're not asking for some giant increase, just exactly what it was last year. And in the next line, the local taxes, you will see a large increase there of $13 million. That's 2 parts. The first $3 million of this is, again, taking it up to what it was last year instead of proposing a reduction in local taxes. But also, it is my understanding that XAI has not been worked into this budget. And the estimates that I have received have been between 12 and 16 million. I've only added an additional 10 for XAI. I'm trying to be on the very conservative end. And that's on page 1. Both of those are on page 1. The next one is on page 23. Our city court clerk is evidently doing a fantastic bang-up job at collecting fines and fees, as she reported. Her current line in her budget shows $4 million that she's collected, but she reported that she's actually collected $8 million, over $8 million this year. So we're saying she's going to collect $8 million next year because we think she can do exactly what she did again. And so that's what that one is. The last one in this section is police services for special events. I know that Chief Davis and I have had multiple conversations about it. I saw Sam Hardiman over there. I know he's written an article about it. We're going to do something about it. We're going to stop talking about it. My understanding from our meetings, Chief, is that it costs you at least $10 million a year in overtime. I know that we're going to have to write an ordinance and get a permitting process in place, so I don't foresee this happening until probably January. But in any case, I hope we can collect $5 million, and that's an increase of $4.5 million. I understand that is a projection, but please understand all budgets are projections. That's what that line item is. The next two bullet points revolve around personnel expenditures. As everybody knows, I'm the impasse queen. Got to spend a lot of time with our CFO, and in all of our meetings, we talked about the current new hire practice that HR has implemented to make sure we make budget this year. And that means a reduction of somewhere between $5 and $6 million per quarter. I'm saying we continue that through the end of the year. So that would be, on the conservative end, $10 million. I should also note that this hiring freeze does not affect first responders, police or fire. They are already excluded from this. The next one, and I will admit that this is a very big ballpark figure, and I will get with HR to nail down the exact figure for you, but I'll explain my reasoning. It is about vacancies that have been open for more than 18 months. Chief Davis did a wonderful thing for our budget last year to help our taxes come down by holding the positions, but having them unfunded. Other divisions need to make the same kind of sacrifice. There are many divisions out there that have had positions open for more than a year and a half. We're not saying we're going to do this for forever, but for this year, my projection on that is $6 million. I'll tell you how I got to that. Chief Boucher and I have had a couple of conversations about this. We've actually been talking about positions that have been open for at least a year, and the last report I saw from her was at $12 million. So I'm extending out the timeline to 18 months and saying only $6 million. I'm trying to be as conservative as I can on all of this. So that's what those are. The last section here, as you know, is my blight remediation ordinance. Again, we are in the process of getting that passed. I am hopeful that it will happen. And, I have talked to Doug McGowan that we have at least 10,000 properties in the city of Memphis that have not had their utilities hooked up for more than 6 months. That means they would be subject to this $300 fine. But instead of projecting this out at $3 million, I've reduced it down to $2 million, just to say it's going to take us some time to get up and go. And as the mayor has pointed out to me, these are some of our least well-performing property owners. So we may not be able to collect all that we can. Again, it is a projection, but that's sort of part of, as Chair Carlisle would say, some of this is science and some of this is art, right? And so that's what we're doing here. And so if you want to dispute my numbers, that's fine. And want to reduce, add, etc. But again, all of that totaled up together gives us $66,440,000 back into the fund balance. The reason that it's on the very last page, $66,440,000. Got it? Okay, it's fine. And what that does for us is it gives us some cushion, some comfort room in this tight year, especially around having the state come in. We've heard a lot about it being really, really tight. It also helps us pay for impasse. Again, I reviewed the numbers with multiple people in the administration. The impact to general fund for the impasse salary increases is $16 million. Police make up the largest majority of that. They're about $10 million. The rest of that number that we saw in some of these meetings at $39 million, they're going to come out of stormwater, sewage, et cetera, our enterprise funds, which are strong and doing well. And as we saw last night with Director Davis, he has $12 million still in his personnel budget that can roll over and help pay for the AFSCME raises too. So I don't ever want to bring a problem without a solution. An impasse is a problem, right? But as I said last night, I think a lot of these people have really thankless jobs, and they're the citizens that support our citizens, and they're voters too. And so they should matter. They support the people who support our city. And that's, you asked for our sacred cows, Chair. I want to make sure that we're taking care of the people who take care of us. But I would not bring that and say, figure it out, Mayor, in a year this tight, and not propose a solution. At the same time, I, voted against the tax increase in the budget last year, and I don't want to tax our citizens any further in this really inflationary environment. Every dollar is going less far. We have a consumer price index, a cost of living increase that is, 2 to 3% projected right now. And so if we pay everybody the same, then we're really paying them less. So I'm trying to take care of all of that in one place. That being said, some of these big chunks like MATA or the affordable housing, again, we're not at 20 million here, we're at 66 million. So if MATA needs the other 15 million, we have it there. But we're not gonna just write blank checks anymore. We are going to make sure that we're holding people's feet to the fire and having some accountability. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Councilman Spinoza, who helped me craft all of this, and then we can maybe take questions.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Spinoza, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jerry didn't really leave me anything else to say, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate the work that she's put in, and I'm sitting here looking around the dais and the work that everybody's put in, Councilman Ford Sr. down to Dr. Warren. I think Dr. Warren's already he's like, oh my gosh, we've got $1.5 million. We can move from the asphalt paving cover line and get it out of the reserve fund for your deal downtown. But I think the overarching theme for me is I look at the way last year's budget went down, and I'm looking at Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at Chief Adams and Chief Davis and everybody in the room. I appreciate Chairman Carlisle for putting the process in place that he put, because going through this process, which has taken a lot of time, allows you to be specific and targeted with what we put together. So it makes sense. And the MATA line item is a big one for me and for our city. But I think that this body would agree that the last year it's been a lot. And it gives us the authority that's our responsibility. That's what this does. It's not going to be easy, but this is going to put money in the reserves for us that we can always push back out. I mean, these numbers match. This thing works. And, it gives us the ability to not necessarily hold people's feet to the fire, but hold people's feet to the fire. Make sure we get the right information before we start writing checks. That was just a tough year dealing with MATA. But enough from me. Thank you to, like I said, Chairman Carlisle, and to the other sponsors too, and to you too, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I have got Councilman Ford in the queue. And actually, hold on real quick, Councilman Ford. I looked the wrong side. I've got White, Swearingen, Washington, Ward, and Ford Senior, but I would like members, if you don't mind, since the sponsors just introduced the resolution and they're directed and the mayor is here, I'd like if there's no objection to allow the mayor the opportunity and his CFO to respond, if that's okay with the makers of the resolution. All right, perfect. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry that I didn't recognize you earlier. Sometimes I just get focused on what we're doing here. But I appreciate you taking the time to come down here. It's a rare step in the budget committee, not lost on the council. Appreciate that. And with that, sir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to each of you. I know you all have been working very, very hard with our team. This is always a stressful season. I know we were joking as I talked to Councilwoman Green yesterday about all the activities, even outside of this, with kids and all the frustration that it is with all of the movement. So I do want to say thank you for that. I want to respond directly to the amendment resolution. And I know we talked about it yesterday. As you probably are not surprised, I'm not supportive. And there's a couple of reasons, and I'm going to try and run through them as quickly as I can without trying to get too granular. But one, I think the overall premise of putting specifically MATA and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the notion of being able to come back to the fund balance and pull from it when we need it, I think that is poor budgeting. If we know that we're going to do these things, we need to budget it. And it is a statement to the community, to the federal government that are our partners in funding MATA, the state that is a partner in funding MATA, when we say we're only going to fund $15 million when we know that it's a $60 million budget. If we know it's a $60 million budget, then we should budget the amount that we feel like can get them there. And we know that $30 million can get them there with some pain. And in terms of holding them accountable, we have put a process in place that allows us to hold them accountable. We put this in place with the city council last year. That process has been working, where every invoice that they want to have paid has to be approved by your attorney as well as our city attorney. And that is a process that I think works. With regards to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we were just at Somerset Apartments today. A few of us, Councilwoman Green was one, as well as Councilwoman Walker. An amazing step forward where we have a blighted property that has sat dormant for many, many years. Well, in its place, we need development. It's not enough for us to tear down these blighted structures and these spaces and communities. We have to put something in its space. And in order to do that, you need to have funding in these pots of funds that allow developers to be able to reasonably rely on dollars that they can use to cover the gap for affordable housing, because it is very, very complicated and very difficult. The other points, there are some things on this list, particularly things like dues and periodicals. While they may seem artificially high, things like National League of Cities, the Municipal League, which does a lot of the coordination with state municipalities, with our legislature, those are things that are a part of those dues, which is why the numbers are higher, because previous years we skipped some of those payments. With regards to the grants and subsidies that come out of the mayor's office, that actually came from us readjusting a line item. We had $2 million in the line item for public safety grants last year. We actually reduced that down to $1,650,000, and we separated the $650,000 for specific agencies, including the Child Advocacy Center, as well as the Civil Rights Museum and their redevelopment that they're doing with the new building across the street. The city of Memphis was one of the only entities that has not participated in such a significant tourism asset for our community. Now, just really speaking to the broader part of this, I think that we should remember that what we presented was not a budget that we just made up haphazardly. It was the result of months of work from a lot of dedicated professionals. And of course, through this process, you can find some things where there are going to be items that you can move here and there. But we trimmed a lot out of the budget on the front end before it came to you all. And so we are at bare bones. And so when we're at bare bones, we had to make some very, very tough decisions. And while we did not include an increase for employees, it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate our employees. It means that we are in a very, very tough state right now in terms of finances. And we need to hold the line for one more year. One more year. We need to hold the line because we ain't got it. I mean, I'm just being frank. We don't have it. The money is not there. And the things that we're talking about, like increasing these line items, XAI is there. That's one. But, you know, sales taxes, you look at some of the things that we're seeing, the state sales taxes are holding flat and going down. Why would we expect ours to be higher? Like, those are things that when we put our revenue projections in, we estimated very conservatively because we want to make sure that we don't have the types of surprises we've seen in the past. In the past, we've gotten negative surprises, which means we have to pull from fund balance and pay for some with money we don't have. we want to get positive surprises where we actually come in higher than estimated, and then we can reward the employees with the dollars that they deserve. And so I'll stop there because I know there'll be a lot more dialogue and debate, but I just wanted to make sure that I was clearly articulating where we are right now. These are proposals that are projecting dollars that may not happen. And if these dollars don't happen, we will find ourselves in a situation where we have to lay off employees, and I mean real employees. People sitting in this room might be some of them, just being real. Like, those are the types of things that have to happen when we get to this point where we start projecting for revenues that don't exist. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I appreciate the commentary. We're going to go to the queue. Colleagues, we've got all members here. This is wrap up. I've been very relaxed on our rules, mainly because the body has been so incredible as we've gone through the process. But please keep in mind that we do have a set of rules that tries, and again, I'm not going to be hard on the gavel, but at least try not to be. Try to please keep questions and comments at least through your first round to about 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then if we need to go another round, obviously we'll just keep exercising that. But we want to give members the opportunity. That being said, I've got Councilwoman White and then Vice Chair JSW Warren and Ford Sr. Councilwoman White, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. And I first want to say thank you so much to Councilwoman Green, Councilman Spinoza. I know you all spent a lot of time trying to pull this together and taking time to pull this together. I know this is no small feat. What I wanted to know was, going through this, my concern was in terms of revenue predictions, and I think the mayor kind of touched on it, so I don't want to be repetitive, is I was a little uncomfortable with some of the reductions in terms of just being very speculative, but I wanted to understand maybe and I don't know if the mayor wants to answer this or chief person, as to how you determined the reductions that you made in terms of the sales tax. I think the mayor kind of explained that, but some of the predictions that are being increased, I kind of wanted to understand how you all did that analysis to make the determination of the projection. And that's question one. I have a couple.
Yeah. No, thank you, Councilwoman. Walter Person again. When we looked at the revenues, especially around unallocated revenues, ad valorem taxes, we took a reasonable but conservative posture. We knew that this was going to be a reappraisal year, but we also knew that the state requires equalization around that. So we were not, unless we took extraordinary action, which included a public hearing, allowed to adjust anything beyond what the state determined to be the appropriate rate. So we estimated ad valorem or property taxes as flat. For sales taxes, and the mayor did actually allude to that. If you recall from the budget overview that I presented several weeks ago, we talked about the state of Tennessee actually seeing a decline in their overall sales tax performance. And I was looking out there last month, and there's an article that is on the state website, in fact, and it's dated April 17th, 2025. And it says, today, Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration Commissioner Jim Bryson announced that the revenues for March were $1.6 billion, which is $33.3 million less than the budgeted estimates and $69.3 million less than March of last year. So with that as a guide, and that's been the guide that we've been using, we decided not to position ourselves to increase revenues at a time when the entire state was looking demonstratively at lowered revenues. And again, this is unusual for the state of Tennessee. Of course, we all know that the state of Tennessee does not have an income tax anymore. The hall tax has been, I think, sunsetted for some years. However, we do know that sales tax have been challenged by a variety of things. And so, again, to the mayor's point, we've taken a conservative, but we think a reasonable posture to make sure that we didn't overestimate, which I think Councilwoman Green spoke to earlier about having good and accurate revenue projections so that we would be accurate in our revenue projections.
Thank you. And then going to the housing fund, reduction. I know there was something set in place last year where there would be requests. How much of that, I guess, was spent this past year? And that may be a question for Chief Adams. You may know. How did that program pan out in terms of the housing, the Affordable Housing Fund? Do you know, Chief? Okay.
We'll follow up with Director Cash to get the actual numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but I can determine them fairly quickly.
Well, I'm glad that one did come up because I was curious to see how that was going to work when we made it where people would have to come and request, and our concern was us making it more difficult for affordable housing. So I would kind of like to know how that went, how much was actually spent last year. In terms of
Councilwoman, can I respond while you thinking about that?
Yeah,
With
please,
regards to the trust fund, I think it's important to note that while dollars might not have been spent, they may be committed. Because of how we commit those dollars, they're reimbursable. And so there may be projects that are committed to the funds that have been awarded during this fiscal year, just not spent yet. So the spending is not the only number you should look at. You should also look at what's committed.
Can I hop on that? Yeah, I mean, Mayor, respectfully, I hear you on that. I think that's the point kind of to your comment about, I mean, I don't want to say nobody because it's been a team effort, but I think I've surprised people in the amount that I've come out for this initiative, and I agree with its importance. I think for me, I'd like to hear from Director Cash, and even if it's in an attorney-client meeting, we've got to be respectful of perhaps projects that she's negotiating that require sensitive discussions. But I think the thing that I'm trying to navigate on that specific line item is, while I don't want to do it, if there's a project that's not shovel ready, that money can go fund to be the last dollar in to literally get them to construction. Why can't I push that into the next year and commit down the road? And I think that's just something, and you don't have to respond, but that's kind of my mindset on some of those line items in there, which I hear you when you say, hey, look, if it's an expense, we can't go hide that. And I know that we need affordable housing yesterday, but for us, I think that's just philosophically, those are the things where my head's at is yeah, I'd rather kick it back into the unassigned fund balance like the sponsors are saying. And if that project comes forward, it's like, we need $500,000 and this project can go forward in the next 6 months. I think that's more the philosophical on that specific bucket. The other ones are much more unique to operations for me, but I think that's where the mindset was. And I wanted to clarify that on that because I recognize what you're saying. Because Director Cash said the same thing. It's kind of the encumbered committed. I can commit $1 billion, but how much of that's actually going out the door this fiscal year? I think that's what we're really focusing on is cash flows in and out. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me hop in there.
You're good. So the other question is, in terms of the Affordable Housing Fund, is that whole 3.6 just city funds, or is that including any federal grants or funding? Just the 3.6, okay. And then I'll move on really quickly. The 10 million XAI, I didn't understand what you said, Mayor. Are you saying that, yes, we agree, or the administration agrees that 10 million should be added in that space,
No.
anticipating XAI?
The only thing I was saying is that I do think that I know that there will be revenues from XAI for sure.
So there will be an anticipated increase in that bucket.
Yeah.
In terms of revenue. Okay. And then this would be for the sponsor in terms of the city court clerk's office. I know yesterday there was a discrepancy as to what was presented in the budget in terms of how much the city court clerk had collected, which was, I think, reflected as about 4.7 million versus the reported when she came during budget hearings and reported in 8.7. Have we confirmed that $8.7 million is what's been collected? Or do we know that? Or
Yes, ma'am. So I think we've made several references to the budget book. I don't know if everyone has it, but on page 3, if you turn to the budget book, it shows you an aggregated revenue stream. You'll see fines and forfeitures, which is associated with the city court clerk's office, and you will see, I think, a proposed budget of $4,030,000. But you'll see above that court costs and court fees. Those are attributable to the monies that are generated in the court clerk's office. And I believe those are the funds that the court clerk was referencing as not receiving credit for. The reason she stated that she's not getting credit for those is because those fall into our what is called unallocated bucket, which means it flows to the top of the house revenues versus the division-specific revenues, which in which case would be in the division of the court clerk. So when you heard the judge speak of this, as well as the clerk, they were speaking of moving those court fees from an accounting and administrative standpoint into that category. However, they're receiving money or credit for all monies that they're generating.
All right, let's simplify this. Is there $4 million that's
Yes.
there, or is it
Yes.
is it not?
Yes, it's there.
Well, no, what I'm saying, additional, or is it already accounted for in the court fees
It's
and
already
court
accounted
fines?
for. Every penny that they generate is accounted for and budgeted.
Yeah, it's an accounting feature. So instead
Right.
of booking it, what the court clerk is really asking for is a little bit of love on paper for the effort.
Got it.
They want you to book it in and then book it out.
Right. Okay. Well, what I was just trying to find is there $4 billion there? Is it not? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay. And then this gets to my. I think that was all in terms of me just kind of verifying what revenue was there, what wasn't. The only thing I would say is, of course, I'm always a supporter of finding additional revenue. I just don't want us to get in a situation, or my only concern is, when I first got on the council, we had that issue with attrition, which was a way for us to be able to balance the budget, which was, hey, we're going to basically make it appear that we have more than what we have in order to create a balanced budget. And what I don't want to do is do the same thing by just kind of arbitrarily increasing spaces of revenue for the purpose of balancing the budget, and the money really truly isn't there. That's my only concern. And then in terms of the initiatives, the blight ordinance and those things, I always appreciate how innovative you are, Councilwoman Green. I mean, I absolutely admire it. It's so speculative kind of when we look at the ordinance last year in terms of the registration fee increase, where we took a minute to start collecting it. We budgeted it for a certain amount, and then we didn't end up at that amount. So I'm just always kind of cautious at some of these things that have not been actually implemented, just knowing the pace that things happen, things occur. So I'm just really concerned about including those types of things in terms of sources of revenue when we've not even actually passed the ordinance or resolution yet, which would actually allow us to be able to collect those, nonetheless, even gone through the practicality and the actual exercise of getting them done. So those are just my thoughts, but I actually appreciate the innovativeness, and you may be able to answer some of those questions once we get on down the road. I'm interested to hear what my other colleagues have to say.
Thank you, Councilman White. Great kickoff. I like the discussion, and so I'm gonna go to the sponsor. I think wanted to make a couple of responding remarks, and then don't get mad at me if I come down and we just move on. But I think it's important to have that open dialogue, especially from this area. So Councilman Green and Councilman Spinoza, I think Councilman Green's got some responding remarks and responses in general.
I will start with your last point first. Attrition's still in the budgeted amount of $36 million, FYI. And I haven't moved that line or talked about it or anything like that. I think we all just heard at the very least that XAI is not accounted for in the budget. And as I said, I budgeted that at $10 million, and the estimates that I have heard are between 13 and 16 million. So again, that by itself pays for impasse. I agree that some of the problems with, you've said that you think this is poor budgeting. I think, and you've pointed out MATA is sort of your sacred cow, I suppose, one of them. I think MATA's done poor budgeting. Every time I turn on the news, we get somebody's flying across the world, or somebody's at the Grizzlies running up a credit card, and I can no longer continue to write a blank check up here and feel like I'm doing my duty to the public. And I understand what their needs are. We support public transportation, but we have to have accountability and visibility for the public on that. And it is not simply them sending us bills and us paying those bills. We need a full audit. We've been asking for one for over a year. As far as the affordable housing, I was there with you on Somerset. I'm here for you, working with you on blight as much as I can in a revenue generating way, I should say. And you're right, that place has been there for many, many years. You talk about holding the line for a year. I'm asking you to hold the line on this for a year, just as Chairman Carlisle said. On the dues, you mentioned that you skipped those in some prior years. Again, hold the line, skip them this year. This year is tight. I will happily go back and work on grants with you, but I think it needs to be line item out a lot clearer. Again, this is not my money. This is not our money. It's the public's money. And for us to move from public safety grants into mayoral grants and have no specifics about what they are and what they're going to, and no public process where people vote on those amounts to those organizations like we do with our council grants, I think is unfair. That's the main responses I have. And again, I appreciate the conversation, the back and forth. This is hard. This is hard work. And, you know, I've tried every way I can to give you revenues and to make what I consider reasonable, right-sizing budgeting decisions to keep the state out of our business and to keep our government moving. And I understand that some revenues are speculative. Every revenue in this book is speculative. Every expenditure in this book is speculative. That's how budgeting works. You guess what you're going to spend. You guess what you're going to bring in. If I have a budget as a mom at home and I get a flat tire tomorrow, that means that maybe I'm not going out to dinner this week. You prioritize to whatever the need is right then. So I'm trying to get our rainy day emergency fund in a good place so that when we get a flat tire, we can take care of it. That's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I've got Vice Chair Swearingen Washington, Dr. Warren, and Councilman Ford Sr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. On the second page, when it talks about the first responders, I wanted to ask, what did you classify as the first responders?
At this time, it excludes fire and police in those budgets. And that's holding the line. That's what we've been doing this last quarter, per the CFO and Director Fouché. They have put in a really incredible, they have a team now, it's my understanding, where when somebody wants to hire somebody, they come in and they say, all right, but this position's been open for 2 years. And she said, I've denied some people. Mm-hmm. You don't really need them right now. We're holding the line. Some things they do approve, but they're looking at them individually. But that does not apply to fire and police. You know, fire does this churn rate. Like, we are constantly just churning through fire and police. We are trying to get our numbers up, so we're not going to hold those back in any ways.
Okay. I was asking because I'm hoping that Director Fouché and some of those key people on those committees would be able to consider other critical positions, such as IT. We know 311 needs some support. Finance needs some support to make sure those systems are more efficient. So, you know, knowing that we would be holding the line.
Yeah, maybe Director Fouché can talk to it. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and then she's making her way up. I mean, I think an easy thing, litmus test, is we kind of go back and we identified a lot of those positions. Honestly, I would say the city probably should write a policy defining that. It's a defined term that we've tossed around too often, if I'm being honest, and I'm sure there's a best practice out there for it. But to the vice chair's point, I mean, you've got solid waste I would toss in there as a frontline defender. They're a first responder in my book. So my point is, we actually went through a anecdotal exercise as we were trying to determine that through hazard pay during COVID CARES and ARPA funding. But to the vice chair's point, if you wouldn't mind just touching on that, and if we need to come back and have a more definitive conversation, we can do that. But welcome. Name and title for the record.
Fonda Fouché, Chief Human Resource Officer. We currently have roughly 178 vacant positions in the general fund. And so what we've been doing once a week is Chief Adams and I, chief person, we all sit down, we meet, and division directors send us in mission critical jobs that they need to fill. And we decide whether or not we're going to fill it based on what they're saying they're needed for. Also, like, what fund is coming out of. So we meet on that weekly. About that. Also, currently, like, with the 178 vacancies we have, only about 24 of them have been vacant for more than 12 months. So the divisions are actively trying to fill those positions. And that's excluding police and fire. But we meet once a week on it.
Okay. That's good.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I've got Dr. Warren.
Thank you. I think the original amount of money I saw in taxes coming out of XAI was 19 million, but it's in the back of my head. My question is, we already have the XAI that's built. We have another plant that's going into Whitehaven. That's not in your consideration, is it? Okay, so that's taxable income, correct? We have other data centers that are coming in line. They're also going to be taxable, and they're not in this budget as far as income. So as we're looking at this, why are they not in the budget because of income? Why are they not there?
I don't know which other ones you're talking about, unless you're talking about Fred, where the Fred's location was, but I don't know when it's coming on. So
Okay.
unless we know when it's coming online, we don't include it.
And see, we can only bill them when they come online. We can't charge them taxes while they're in construction. Is that correct? Or is it
I
not?
had to ask, the assessor would have to
Yeah,
respond to
personal
that.
property. Yeah, this is a long subject.
Yeah. Let
I
me
guess
answer-
my
let me
question
answer-
is,
Let me answer the bigger question about XAI.
Because we're making guesses, right, about what our income is going to be.
Educated guesses,
Educated guesses. That's what we're trying
informed
to
guesses, yes.
do. And everything that we're doing is a guess. I
Yes.
think Councilwoman-
Everything is a guess, but we look at patterns, we look at how things have trended in the past, and the rationale for XAI,
We don't have a pattern on that.
we don't have a
Okay, so that's
pattern.
the issue we don't have. So
We
that
just
gets us what you're
recently
saying.
found out what the numbers might be during this process. I think we had already submitted our budget, and so we looked at that as one of those potential positive surprises that we get in our budget that can contribute to our fund balance that we are desperately trying to increase.
Yes, I'm looking also at MATA, and I'm looking at how they're running it and what they're doing. And I think I mentioned to them before, I don't see any bus full. You know, I know those buses cost $2 million, $6 million, however much it costs if they're electric. And I know how much it costs to buy a 14-passenger van, you know, and what it takes to, like, move people. We could have four passenger vans for half the cost of a big bus and run something every 15 minutes where people actually would use public transit. So I haven't seen anything coming from MATA. So I'm with Councilwoman Green. It makes sense not to give them money until they come up with some other plans.
In order to buy those small vans, you need money.
Yeah.
You need a workforce.
Show me- let's see the- show
and
me the
they need time to stabilize. We just put a new board in place in November. Transpro just came in February. So those things are happening. I know that they've brought
I guess my thing
updates
is
to you all.
the stabilization time that they need. This is urgent. I mean, this is not stabilizing. They should be like recreating
Well,
now.
putting it at 15 million is decimating. So it's not stabilizing, it's decimating. You're not going to get small vans by investing less.
Well, here's what I'm looking at is we're not going to get anything by giving them exactly what we've done before and expecting something different.
But we're not.
But,
We're not
we're
doing
giving
what we've
them 30
done
million.
before
Give them
because
30
we have a
million.
new board. We installed TransPro. We have
And
put a
the
new
new board
place
has
for.
not given us any information. We don't have anything coming from them that we know about. So how's that different than the old board? Yeah, you may know stuff that we don't know.
I think that we all want urgently to get public transit right. We want to have it in a way where it serves more people and we get more people on the buses. But it's going to take time. And
so,
the
but
things
you're-
that you need from the board to deliver, we ask them to give it to us. That's
got
what
it?
and I'm saying we with you guys.
Yeah, but
We ask them to deliver those things.
And
But
we-
cutting the dollars does not get us there.
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to continue on that theme, okay? What we're saying is you get half of your money right now. We're keeping the other half until we see that you give us some deliverables. We would like those reports. Why should we give you that money up front when you haven't given us the deliverables
Why would
yet?
you not budget money that you know you're going to spend?
I don't know. We'll spend it. They don't bring it to us. Will we spend it? I mean, what do if there's any way to hold someone's feet to the fire, that's it, is that you have to say, you have to do this if you want to get paid. if you know you're going to get it, why are you doing anything different? And I haven't seen them do that yet. I'm hoping they're going to.
The process that the council and the administration have put in place allows us to do exactly what you just said. We just need money in the budget to pull from when they've done the things that we hold them accountable to do.
And the money is in the general fund. And if they do what they need, they can get their money. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I don't think either one of those are saying we're not going to do it, but it does say that there have to be certain things done to make it work. So that was just my thinking. And I'm looking at the fact that we haven't put any of the money in that we're expecting from XAI into the budget. I think that some of the things here are definitely negotiable, but I really appreciate what Councilman Spinoza and Councilwoman Green did here. And I understand why you might be hesitant to assume any of these things going forward, but it makes sense to me that there are compromises to be made here, and there are ways that we can possibly keep our employees. Right now, we have one crane driver in our entire city. So any of these big logs that go down, anything that blocks the road, we got one guy in our whole city who's certified to move that out. So we've got major issues with critical people that we haven't supplied and we're in need of. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Councilman Ford Sr., sir, thank you for your patience.
I was gonna hold my peace, but let me just start saying a few things. I gotta come back to you since you were last. Madam, I'm gonna have a meeting. I need you to wait. Almost there.
Thank you.
Sometimes you got to wait. Okay? Can't do things overnight. So I'm gonna take, that's the matter. So you just behave till I have my meeting. Okay? She come?
Yeah, hold on. Hold on.
What? Now, make some money because you won't get that pothole fixed by the city. I'm just being for real right now. I want y'all all to understand things. You know, we had impasse, all the rest of it. Sounds good. All of it sounds good. Okay? That's the first thing. Affordable housing, hell, in my district, I need as much as possible. Please don't bother none of that, okay? You can go out east, hell, and you don't need no affordable housing, but don't come in my district talking about cutting that.
I got you.
You understand me? Because that's where blight come in.
Yes, sir.
Chief, that's why we end up having problems. All our people living in blight, living in nothing. And y'all want to talk about cutting some of that?
Yeah.
No, bring it back, okay? Neighborhood enhancements. You know, it's Ashley Cashier. I thought I saw her. Okay, but like I said, hey, talk with her. XAI, don't count them people's money right now. Please don't count their people's money because you got Arkansas and Mississippi would love to have them. But you got these fools out there talking crazy, which we don't want to lose none of this stuff, okay? We're talking about Fred, data center. Anybody read papers, looked at the news, what is West Memphis doing? Hello? Everything that we think about between Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, God dog it, do it, because we sitting here dumbfounded. Wake up, y'all. But like I said, don't count my money. Don't count their money. You know, all what you said sound good, don't mean nothing. When it comes down to being realistic with things, okay? But be patient. Be patient. God's good all the time, and he's going to take care of our city. That's if we get these haters away from here. Okay? And I'm talking about here in the city and across the doggone street. You got one that holds us back too, because I want the money from over there to come what's supposed to be over here. Okay? Since that was nice what you had. Don't mean nothing. You know, I'm being honest. You know, matter. I got to go back to that for a minute. We're talking about matter. I talked with them this morning. One main thing that we got to do, which will bring downtown back to, because our downtown is the pits. I'm just being honest with you, okay? Is a trolley, okay? We're working on that too, okay? But be patient. And nothing like being patient. Don't rush nothing. Mayor, hey, we got to do a lot of talking. Okay? I don't want to break the sunshine law, anything else, okay? But I'm just being realistic today. I said, I'm not going to tell. You know, because I talk people along, you know. But there's a lot of things that can happen, okay? I'm looking forward for it to happen, okay? But we got to be patient. It won't be long. And then maybe what everybody wants, what you want, we might be able to get it. But just hold on a little bit longer. You know, I wasn't coming today. I was coming to, I think I told Jay that I'd be there at the last meeting. You know, because I really didn't want to hear a lot of mess. And I understand what people like, this, that, and the other. Been there, done that. You know, 20-something years ago doing budget, I was over budget. You know, everybody wanted to rush this, that, and the other. I recessed and told them, hey, y'all order pizza where they can eat, and maybe when they get full, they come back with sense. I'm being honest with you now. They came back with a lot of sense. You know, sometimes you have to feed folks. That's just like children that go to school. If they go to school hungry, they're going to flunk out. But if you feed these children, they can learn something. So adults, that's maybe what we need to do, where we can learn something. And I'm talking about all of us, not council. I'm talking about everybody. And anybody that's listening. You know, we just had press conference. Some things that I wanted to say at that press conference. You know, I told you to keep on running, didn't I? I need all the other media to keep on running, because I need mama, daddy, sister, brother, uncle, auntie to help us stop some of this. It ain't gonna just stop by itself. Because if I get this child give me $200-300, it's okay to do whatever you want to do. But they need to stop it too. So they got to be part of it. And what you did today, you had everybody there. Hey, yeah, zero tolerance. This is what we need to do. Okay? And Patel up there in Washington, D.C. won't have to worry about. I think you're talking about maybe this summer they coming. No, we need to do something now, not wait till summer. Summer might be too late. Okay? Then, and I don't mind saying, y'all got some of y'all Republicans up in here. Y'all voted for the man.
Definitely not a Republican.
But
Skip that on the record.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
what I'm trying to say, we don't know what to expect right now. We really don't. Tomorrow could help us or hurt us. Right now, we need as much help as possible. That's why I just said, hold on for a minute. I'm asking y'all, just hold on. Things gonna be okay. Last year, we were in the same shape. But we made it, didn't we? Little prayer, little everything, and everybody was happy. I think everybody was happy. Tried to make everybody happy. Chief, did we try to make everybody happy? Huh? Yeah, we tried. And we told them, don't even come back. But they did. I mean, they did. But I said, don't come back no more. But they did. So we're going to try to make y'all happy again. But just hold on. Everybody, let's work it together. I'm going to be quiet because I can sit here and talk all day because I ain't got nothing to lose. Like I said, I promised y'all I was going to stay till after this budget. And it's moving real slow. But I'm going to stay here until after this budget. Okay? This is going to be my last one.
Oh, let's see about that. Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Hey, I'm overdue.
Yes, sir.
Hey, but I've been here all my life.
Still too young.
My whole family been here all their lives. Everybody. Hey, I love the city of Memphis. I want to see it grow because we're at a standstill.
Yes, sir.
We let everybody else come in and get everything that we supposed to have. Okay? So let's look at all those different things, okay?
Thank you, Councilman Ford.
I'm through.
Appreciate you, sir. I have Councilman White, but I've got actually Councilman Smiley in the queue, and then Councilman Spinoza, who have not spoken. Then we'll get back to Councilwoman White. Councilman Smiley.
Thank you. I'm going to be actually brief for like the first time since I've been on this body. I think I just want to get back to a couple of things. You know, I think yesterday this body passed a resolution, you know, expressing our will to see that our city workers receive the pay increases they desperately deserve. And while we're talking about, you know, all of these various issues or pain points or pet projects from particular folks, I just don't want to lose sight of the value of people. I think that it has to be at the heart of what we're doing. You know, paying folks. You know, we keep talking about wait just another year, wait just a little while longer. But I think we've been saying that consistently to various members of city of Memphis workforce to keep waiting. They wait and then they don't get paid. They wait and then they don't get paid. They wait and then guess what? They decide to leave and we wondering where our employees went. I just want to make sure we get back to the point of what we said we were going to do last year. We said we wanted to pay employees last year, and we did. We said we want to focus on paying employees this year. We passed a resolution to do that. I want to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain. We said we're going to do something. I want to make sure that this body understands that that is exactly what we need to be doing. And then as we talk specifically about the budget, everything is anticipated revenue. Everything is projected revenue. And we understand that it's anticipated or projected revenue. I think it's, I want to call it disingenuous. I just don't think it properly accounts for everything that we know we're going to bring something in for. I think we have to include that. The reason I co-sponsored this resolution was it got us to where I thought we needed to be. We're going to support people. And I agree with Councilman Ford that we have to do a really good job of working with the mayor's administration, but I also hope that the mayor's administration is willing to listen to this body when we say, hey, the body want to pay people. That should be a priority. Once we start deciding we're going to pay the folks what they deserve, then we start working through everything else. I just think we have to be willing to have some uncomfortable conversations to get into where we're going to go. But the body has expressed its intent to pay people. I think that's where we should start. Then we work our way down. We can figure everything else out, but we should start there. But that's it for me. I'm looking forward to this dialogue. I enjoy all the comments. Councilman Warren, I enjoyed your discussion about matter. Councilman Ford, I always enjoy your discussions because you're going to tell it like it is because you have nothing to lose. Absolutely. But I also want to give kudos to part-time council members who put in full-time work, like Councilman Spinoza and Jerry Green. This wasn't easy. So we can beat it up all we want to, but they put in as much work as the administration on this particular project. So kudos to them, and let's continue working together to move our city forward. And the folks who are naysayers about, you know, what we're doing in the city of Memphis, we don't care. We're going to keep pushing forward and making the city the best place it can be. So that's it for me.
Councilman Spinoza.
I'll be quick, thanks. I promise I'll be quick. Councilman Ford Sr. took up all my time. Chief person, I have a kids. I got a kids baseball game to go to. Actually, I saw Mayor Young at our son's baseball game last week. Chief person, I don't think I said thank you to you. That was not intentional, by the way. So I just want to say thank you to you too. And I don't think, Mr. Mayor, either you intended, none of this was personal, man. We're all doing our jobs. You were like, I think you said something like you thought it was bad budgeting. And I know that's not what you meant. I think you said this moments ago. Everybody said it. The mayor brings us the budget, and then it's our responsibility, and we've all been elected. And so, again, this whole process, I haven't said as much this budget season at all, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I've tried to take a page out of his book, because I've watched it all develop and play out in front of us, and I love this job, and I love serving the citizens of Memphis. But everybody is tired. The citizens are tired. They're beat up. We raised their taxes, and we're all trying to get through this thing together. We're not moving people around the way we should with MATA. I mean, the list goes on and on. You talk about affordable housing. I just want to be really clear. None of this is ever designed to take money away from affordable housing or to not help people move around town. It's actually the exact opposite. And that's on us to control the funding and make sure that we get results. So that's what this is about. And I'm excited for you all, the mayor, everybody in the crowd today, to bring us the plans. And this is about us making sure, my intent with this was for us to make sure that we do the right thing. And I think that that's your intent too. So we're all trying to figure this out, right, together. And I think there's wins in here. This is a starting point, but I appreciate y'all. So I want to say day one, this is our last hearing, but I think we'll be talking about this a little bit more.
Sure, we'll be talking about it. So just to be clear, I hope you ain't take it personal. I was saying bad budget practice. I didn't say you were a bad budgeter, but I do think it's bad budget practice to say that you are putting something in a reserve but intend on using it for another purpose. You just put it in the line for which you intend to use it.
And I would say bad budget practice is not putting any revenue in for the largest supercomputer in the world, but I'm not saying
when you didn't know the number?
Exactly.
Good budget practice would be having a positive surprise so that you get revenue at the end of the year that can go to the bottom line.
But how much would a small bus be for MATA? Like none of us know is what I'm saying. So we're all trying to work through this together. And I'm not saying that
I don't know how that has anything to do with what we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about saying
the cost of a small bus,
that we're going to do $30 million for MATA.
That's for operations.
Right, but then we talked about Dr. Warren and I think other council members, and we all want the same thing. Like we've got to fix this, right? And so we're just saying let's hold it back, and please bring us $15 million worth of MATA. Give us a $100 million plan for MATA. You know what I mean? But last year it was tough to sit up here and watch money fly out the door. It was just I don't want to do that again. And I think it's good for all of us. But again,
I'll agree to disagree.
I appreciate you in this process, and it's just day one.
Thank you, Councilman Spinoza. I've got Councilman Ford Sr. and then Councilman White.
I told you I don't want to talk that. Back to MATA. You go to Cara, love you to death, baby. But you carried on the worst person in the world, the one before you. That's why our problem began. Understand?
I got you.
Him.
I didn't hear what you said.
The one before Picaro.
Yeah.
Okay? And then she just said, oh, well, hell, if he did it, hell, I can do it too. I'm talking about, what's his name? Rosen, whatever. He never liked me. I never liked him either. I'm just being honest with him because, hey, I was always on his case because I knew what he was doing, but council didn't care about it, okay? Y'all didn't. Okay, now you wasn't here, but some of these other folks, they know who the hell I'm talking about. Didn't care, okay? But now all of a sudden y'all won't care. We trying to straighten it out because I don't care what nobody said. We got to do whatever we supposed to do for MATA for transportation. So get over that. Okay? You understand? Huh?
The boss is calling you.
Yeah, boss got to wait. Hey, baby, I'll call you back because I'm on their butt right now. And she probably calling me to say, don't have no heart attack. But that's all right. I'm covered. But the only thing about it, but like I said,
Ladies and gentlemen, no, it's for you. I want everybody to be quiet so everybody can hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, the councilman speaking.
I'm just trying to be honest with everybody. You know, when I was on the council before, we had our differences. We had a lot of different things. But when it came to business of the city of Memphis, we took care of business. We were all on the same page. Okay? All of us were on the same page. That's why I said, hey, we all work together for what benefited the city. Okay? Right now, we ain't on no page. You know, that's why I said, hey, we need to get on the same pages. And you know, and that's why I said, patience, then, you know, and then we can. And then I still got to go back to my housing. Chase, we worked quite a bit for affordable housing. It takes time to try to, hey, we put money in every year. And actually, it was my neighborhood. It wasn't east. Okay, it wasn't east. Because they had the money. But they didn't want to put it in mine. And I'm going to be quiet once I say this. Get on Interstate 240. When you get to 385, and you're coming back west, it gets dim. You know why it gets dim? Because they figure if it gets dim, you know where you are. That's just a fact. It's been said. When you get there, and you know, I'm not a prejudiced person, anything else. But when you get there, it gets dim. But when you go the other way, oh, it's light, everything else. But that's to let you know where you are. We need to get beyond that, okay? But that's just fact. People have talked about that. So because, you know, them black folk down there, that's why it gets dim. This happens down there because it gets dim. But you're going to talk about my affordable housing, maybe if I can put somebody in a house. You know, when Harrington was the mayor, Hope 6 projects. We got rid of all the projects.
I think Archie may have just now finished the last piece of that.
The last piece of it. But you know, it was hard because you had a lot of people you go and you see them and they said, just fix this up a little bit. Oh, hell no, we're going to tear it down. Because we want you to feel if you're at home, mixed. Okay? And if you look at public housing, how mixed it is, hey, you ought to feel better. But we had zero tolerance. Okay, you do, you gone. And we even had people say, well, if they put me out, what I'm gonna do? I really don't care. Because you knew what to expect. Zero tolerance, all the rest. And you have to sometimes put your foot down with that, okay? And like I said, 109, all the rest of it, shucks. When you go on some of these streets, hey, and like I said, we had different things, and I want to bring that back too when y'all want to talk about spending some money. You know, we used to match money, you know. For your $1, we gave $2, okay? We fixed up this house. Hey, if it's yours, we'll give it back to you. Sell it back. As long as we got somebody living in it, and put them on tax roll. We did all those different things, okay? That built up your neighborhoods. You didn't have all that blight. We kind of lost focus of, we don't do nothing, okay? And yeah, I'm black, but I want my people to have just like East Memphis. They wanted me to move to East Memphis. I don't know, all I got here. You know, but you need to move over here. No, I want out here. Because one thing, when they build, you know, let me just, I'll put it to you this way. Germantown was black. Carterville was black. They moved us out, told us our property wasn't worth a dime. When they got it, you couldn't buy no property because it was too expensive. All out 64 Highway, Berry Hill Road, that was owned by blacks. There's a family that didn't let that happen to them. And they own property from Winchester, way out Hacks Cross, all the way back to Poplar Pike. They didn't let it happen. Okay? FedEx on some of the property. Jolston's on some of that property. But they still got their property. Okay? But Benjamintown, going all over, those were black areas, okay? They moved us out, and they brought us downtown. Now they won't come back downtown. I'm just being honest. You know, Crump Boulevard was the line. Now they're trying to do the same thing. Blight, don't want it fixed up. Cross Crump, coming on down Florida Street and all. Get rid of us. Build all these little apartments, all the rest of the stuff, everything else. I'm just trying to be honest with y'all right now.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to us, I'm just trying to be honest. You know, I don't mind living around black folk, white folks, or whatever. You know, some of them don't like to live around us. And sometimes I can understand. Okay? I'm just being honest now.
Thank you, Councilman.
Hey,
You know, look, you know I love. Yes, I hear you. I know you are. By the way, I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
I'm being
Yeah.
realistic.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's one reason, and I'm getting to this point. That's why we're not growing. But all you have to do, you can go Shelby Drive, 3rd Street, all the way till it ends, going east. Then go to State Line Road. You're in a different city. Okay? Different city. Okay, and you got so many different exits. Wherever you decide to go to Mississippi, you're in a different city. And you know whose money that is? That's ours. That's our money. Arkansas invites you. I will give you this if you come and buy a house. And you can still work in Memphis. Ain't gotta get them a dime. And y'all talking about revenues coming in. I wonder why. Because they're taking it all back. Don't spend a dime here with us, okay? I left going to Mobile, got on 55, all the way to Grenada. If you go there at 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, you say rush hour coming toward us. And hey, they'll run you off the road when they get off work, going right back down there to Mississippi, taking all our money, everything else. But you go to Mississippi, hey, they got all these taxes. They're gonna get theirs off the top. We don't get none of that stuff.
No, sir.
I'm gonna be quiet because, like I said, but I just want y'all to understand what's going on here in the city of Memphis.
Yeah, look, chairman, former chairman, I appreciate that. I leaned over my colleague. There's a lot of wisdom to be derived out of somebody that's been there and seen it and served on this body. So I appreciate it.
You had Atlanta, Georgia was a hick town worse than us. They all got together. Said, forget all this mess. We need to come together and look at it today.
Yes, sir.
That's what we need to do. Don't give it away. Hey, we need to get it for ourselves. And we can do it. We got a lot of people that help us do everything that we need to do, you know.
Thank you, Councilman Ford. I've got to go to Councilman White if that's okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I agree with you. I always appreciate the wisdom and history that you bring, Councilman Ford. I also wanted to say, because one of my council members said we were beating or wrecking or something, the resolution. And I just want to make sure that I was very clear that that's not the case at all. I actually appreciate the innovativeness. I appreciate the effort. Just doing my due diligence and asking the questions to make sure that we don't end up in a bad position. We have to be accountable and we have to be prudent and we have to do what the mayor said. Although it's speculative, we have to be educated in the way that we come up with these numbers, and they have to have a basis and we have to do an analysis. But with all that said, going back to the actual resolution, what I was going to say is, before I made my final comments, I had a quick question about number 1, the general fund 0111, and this may be for Chief Fouché. Is this a reduction that we're allowed? Is this an allowable reduction or move that we can make, or is this some fund that has to be a certain number, or are the restrictions here, or?
I'm going to read I'm going to read this just so everybody can reference. General Fund 011, account number for 051308, Group Life Insurance. There's a request for a reduction, making the new fiscal year 26 proposed budget amount adjusted down to $708,591.
We cannot reduce that fund. That is our group life insurance fund. That is our premiums that are paid either by the employee or by us that goes to our life insurance. So those are the premiums that we pay. Either we pay some and then the employer also pays some. But that's our life insurance.
Okay, so that one's off limits.
Yes.
Okay. Then I had one more question in terms of this implementing the 6 month continuation of the new hire review process. And I know that excludes first responders. I wanted the mayor's administration to respond to any impact. What's your position on the $10 million potential reduction there for a 6 month freeze? And then additionally, is that something that you all see as feasible, being the vacancies and needs that we have right now?
Thank you. During the course of impasse, we did talk about savings, and we are actively trying to pursue those savings. However, what we've seen empirically is that when we tried to do that, a lot of those savings were absorbed by other expenses. So as we pursue hiring freezes, we're seeing upticks in overtime. We're seeing upticks in other incentive-based programs, which have absorbed any real savings that we would see from the hiring. So that number became more theoretical, and the actual number will likely be well lower than that amount.
So what would you say could be a number? What would be a more realistic, I guess, number one? So can we can do 6 months freezes without any I guess, extreme impact to services?
No, ma'am, we cannot. There will be impacts to services. We were looking at that simply from a standpoint of trying to maintain fund balance. But the fact is that if we pursue that path, we're going to not only have a reduction in service quality and services themselves, but we're not going to yield the full savings, because if you think about it, if you don't hire someone, you have to cover those remaining services with overtime. In the case of a lot of different areas, you've got other incentives and other expenses that come along with that also drive additional expenses. You may have additional healthcare expenses that absorb additional costs. So we don't see the full impact of that in actual operations.
Okay, thank you. So this is what I will say, just I guess for wrap up of my comments. Number one would be, and this is if, and you all may, I guess, have the votes for this, but I was about to say in terms of where my position. Number one, I think Chief Fouché said that's off limits, so I would be opposed to the first one. I think the second one is a great find, the $255,000. In terms of those 3 ARPA positions in animal services, I'm not opposed to the $650,000 reduction on page 8, as they haven't been there in previous years. And I don't know if the administration has any position on kind of where that was or what's that for. The Family Safety Center, I'm in favor of that. That's a great find again. I'm opposed to the Affordable Housing Fund as of now. I'm open to some other discussion after we hear from Director Cash on that one. In terms of the periodicals, I don't really, it's not a big number, but I don't really have any basis to just kind of arbitrarily cut that one. I'm not in agreement with that one. Matter, I don't know yet. I need to contemplate that. I think I just need more information there. State taxes increase. That one I just don't agree with, just seeing the trend and just nationally seeing trends. I kind of looked into this a little bit. Increasing that by 4 million makes me incredibly uncomfortable. The local sales taxes, I agree with that one, with that increase, not solely based on one company, but just based on the fact that it's a reappraisal year. And I understand that you all do projections. I don't know if it would be 13 million, but I do think there is some cushion there and some increase there. In terms of the legal city court clerk one, it's my understanding that there's not an actual 4 million that was unaccounted for in the budget. So then I would be, unless, if there is 4 million there, great. But if it's not and it's already accounted for, then no. Getting to the last part, in terms of where I was saying kind of speculative, the blight remediation, including 2 million for that, I think it's completely speculative just based on the fact that there's no actual blight ordinance yet. And then the same as it pertains to the collecting money for fees, I think that's something that's gonna have to be worked out, and we just have no clue how, when, if, and what return it would yield. So that I would.
Great feedback. Honest, transparent feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got if you don't mind, Councilwoman Green, I've got the vice chair that just wants to get a couple clarifying questions in. Would that be all right? Perfect. Vice Chairwoman, the floor is yours.
What was that last one that you said was the police services? Special events.
Yeah, the special events one.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
$500,000. An increase of $4.5 million.
That's the overtime for when they're doing events and.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's highlighted. Yeah, and that's if and when we're able to kind of work out some kind of negotiation or whatever it is.
We have to do an ordinance.
That's going to take some work.
Okay.
And so that's why I say, when I say speculative, it's not even off the ground yet. It's not something that's in place. So we're not able to we have no basis to come up with an educated guess as to what it would yield.
Thank you. Chairman, I know that we have the city court clerk here. I was wondering if she could give us some clarity.
I'm fine with that, as long as there's no objections. Yeah.
Well, what I was about to say is, from my understanding from the response from the CFO, is that the clarity that there is a collected 8.7, but that it's accounted for because it's split up. It's not just 4.7 in terms of the total. It's
But I would like
All right. I got it. So here's the deal. I think this is why I'm okay. Why I'm cool with this. I'm not going to let the clerk and the administration and us get in a three-way back and forth. However, in her capacity, I think it's important for her to state on the record of her position, whether it's agree to disagree or agree. I think it's important to allow the clerk to speak. So let's get that clarified. Vice Chairwoman, would you restate your question, please?
I would like some clarity on the increased revenue of $4 million coming from the general fund, account number 045, just to see what your opinion would be of that. The proposed revenue amount was $84,325,000.
And then when we're finished, sorry, just real quick, go ahead and think about your answer. Go ahead and think about your answer. I'm just going to do a housekeeping. So then whenever the vice chair's done, then I will go to Councilwoman Green and she can, so I apologize for cutting you off. I just want to make sure we kept it going. Clerk, thank you.
You're welcome.
If you give us your name and address for the record.
Sakita Johnson, City Court Clerk, 201 Poplar Avenue. It's always been my position that our appropriation statement does not correctly reflect everything that we're collecting. Today, Chief Person said that it's in the budget book that the money that's being unallocated for is in the unallocated portion. That's news to me. So if it's in the budget book that there's, I think, $4 million being budgeted over there, like it's been accounted for, then that would account for the money. But as I stated in our budget hearing meeting, during this process of trying to locate the money, I reached out to the auditor. She found the suspense account, and at that time, it was at $6 million. So even if it's budgeted as $4 million,
in the book, we're already over that.
All right. Yeah, so here, I'm going to make a real quick suggestion from a housekeeping standpoint. We're just going to do this old school accounting. It's very simple. The monies are coming in. We have accounts for that. Pull the account reconciliation, and we'll see how much is collected. Not cash on hand, cash inflows and outflows. And here's the deal. We'll see on the outflows of whether it's a wire or an intercompany transfer. It should take less than an hour. Honestly, it should take one query, but I don't know what our systems are like. So, I just don't know, like I said, I don't know what our operating systems are. But I don't want to get in a round robin, but that question will be clarified publicly in due time. Chief, I'll give you, out of respect, I'll give you a chance to make a comment if you want. But I think the best thing to do is let's just go get it and track it down. Let's go run it down.
We can provide appropriation statements that substantiate what we've offered here today.
I think that would be the best thing to do. I appreciate that. Vice Chairman, does that satisfy? All right. I'm going to make one clarifying comment that's philosophical, and then I want to allow the lead sponsor to wrap us up, and then we'll go mechanically, depending on what the sponsors would like to do. I will say this, not that the council, and I don't want to get in trouble with my colleagues, but look, I understand we are in a tight budget year, and I'm sure people, when I make this comment, are like, well, what are you guys doing? Well, I'm not going to sit here and say what we should or shouldn't do, because that's just colleague suicide. But I will say, like, looking out, like the other day I drove down and I saw a park ranger truck. That program was like barely stood up and it was already wrapped and all this stuff. So when we keep talking about priorities and sacred meows, the issue for me is like the stupid stuff. Stop spending on stupid things. We don't need to print a million little cards to tell somebody that we're having an event. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot. You're like, that's not a big deal. But it does. Like, we're a penny business right now. Every penny counts. Somebody made a comment to me in the back, like, that's only $20,000. I was like, that's how we got here. 20,000 here, 50,000 there, 25,000 there. Next thing you know, $1 million is gone. And then you're like, well, that's not a big deal. It's $1 million. Then you say, yeah, but you could have gotten X for $1 million. And then all of a sudden people are like, dang it, next time. So for me, I can come a long way on the mayor's budget because I understand where he is driving his vision to. I get it. But we don't get to do it all. And that's the hard part. Like, that is where we are. Like, we are still doing things around the city in these little luxuries, including us in our division. I got it. Like, I hear that. And I'm speaking kind of to the directors, but really just out into the public. Like, we understand that. We've got to do some internal controls and say, if this were my household, like Councilwoman Green said, Mama can't go out that week. Like, we have got to start thinking that way, and at least just for this year. And so, I know that sounds very lectury, and I'm really sorry to do that. But like, the more and more I think about it, and I talk to business owners in the city, and I hear what they are having to do for their small businesses in order to make sure that they're making payroll and they're making debt service and they're paying insurance. They are battening down the hatches on every non-core expense. I had somebody representing MATA approach me today, and I immediately turned around and said, I don't want to meet with you until I see every single employee, their salary, their benefit package, and whether or not they start a bus, work on a bus, or gas a bus. Because if they don't need to have a job there today. That's where we are. So that's how I feel about the budget. Now, how we get there mechanically is while we're in the room. And it's going to get a little uncomfortable. And hopefully, to the point of many colleagues and the mayor, we can come out on the other side of this thing. But it's not a joke. And so I appreciate greatly, and I said this in the back, and I'll say this again, members who present these resolutions take extreme risk to themselves after doing an extraordinary amount of work. But it is the thing that helps the budget process push along. I am very grateful to the sponsors of this resolution for putting it forward and getting us going, because it probably would have wasted another 2 weeks if we didn't have it. And so I genuinely mean thank you to them. With that being said, Councilwoman Green, I would like for you to take us out of here on the discussion for today on this item. And then, if you want to talk through how you'd like to handle it. It sounds like some amendments may be coming and forthcoming.
Absolutely.
So,
and I appreciate your kind words and those others who have said nice things about us working hard and putting this together. You know, there's a great Teddy Roosevelt quote that says, if you're not in the arena, I don't really care about your opinion. So I appreciate the people who are up here in the arena with me and trying to fight this out because it is hard. Worked on this until at least midnight last night after council. So, and spent a lot of my time. And understand I'm juggling another budget across the street with another group of people that I won't talk about. It's going fantastic there too. But, you know, the way that I come to this process, so that you know, is I've had multiple conversations in impasse meetings and in other meetings with my colleagues and with the administration. I have poured through this book since it's been given to me, which was not easy with one eyeball, but I've tried my best to get through it. And so when I have presented this to you, especially those that have pinpointed questions, you know, you look at the group in life insurance line, they say that we have to give out 1.2 million. Well, I'm telling you that the actuals in FY24 were 542,000, and then we adopted a budget of 1.1, and then our forecast is only 697. I can only trust the book that they gave me. And the same is with the hiring freeze and the new hiring contingent plan. I have heard both from the CFO and from the director of HR that it's working and that it's saving us $5 to $6 million. And I asked you that in all 5 of the impasse meetings we were in, and you said, yes, that could continue to save it. And then today, it sounds different. So I can only trust what I'm being told. The same with the clerk. Like, I'm here today with that $4 million ask because I was in budget hearings, and again, other people were in the room, and it was said there was $4 million extra dollars. I didn't make these numbers up. These projections, like even the projection on the blight, the reason I have that is there are 10,000 homes right now that only haven't had power for 6 months. I got that number from Doug McGowan within the city limits. That's one of the criteria to be able to be charged the $300 fee. That's $3 million. I cut $1 million off the top. Every one of my estimates is conservative. XAI, you say you heard 19 million? I only put in 10. I'm telling you, I have done this and brought this to you because of information that I have gathered and worked hard to find. And I have not just made it up. And again, I can only trust the information that's being given to me before today. If different information is coming out today, I appreciate that Chair Carlisle is asking for appropriation statements because I don't have any other information. This is my part-time job. I want to see this city succeed. I think it succeeds when we help the people who support our city. And that, to me, my sacred cow, is supporting the police officers who are literally putting their lives on the line. That means supporting the people who are working in raw sewage every day, people who are working out at plants where they are exposed to environmental factors that peel lead paint off, people that go into animal hoarding houses and have to be attacked by dogs. That's the people that are in our impasse. They're jobs you don't want. And I'm trying to make that work because, again, I would never say, Mayor, go figure it out, because I know what that's like on the other side of the street. I know what it's like to have a body put things in front of you and then have to go back and figure out how you're going to do it. I wanted this to be a public conversation. I have tried to be as open and honest and forthright with everyone on this council about it and tried to tell you exactly where these numbers came from. They didn't come from me. They came from the information I got from the administration. I met with you twice yesterday. I don't even know how many times Walter and I have hung out. I am trying to get you guys the best information and come up with a solution. That's literally all this is. I hope that you will join me in trying to figure out the places where we can tighten our budget. I hope you will join me in our efforts to support Chief Davis to get what she needs to really pay for her overtime. But you have to understand there are things hidden in this budget. There are places that we can make adjustments. This is our responsibility. It is our most important responsibility on this council, is this budget. I wish everybody had spent as many hours as I had the last several weeks with this budget. We'd be in a different place. But I'm coming to you guys today and putting something on the table. I assumed there would be amendments. I hope you make them. I hope you make them with informed decisions. And I want to find us in a place at the end of this where we don't raise taxes and we do pay our people. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I've got Vice Chair Swearingen Washington, and then Ford and Warren. After that, I'm gonna close the queue.
Thank you, Chair. And Councilwoman Green, we do appreciate your leadership and everything that you have done and this document that you have put before us. I would like to, and we commend you as well. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we take some time to look at this document, take a deep dive into it, make whatever revisions that may need to be done, give us an opportunity to meet with directors and get some additional data, and come back on June 2nd.
Thank you. There's a motion to have this item delayed for a vote until our budget hearing wrap-up of June 2nd to allow members to, and I'm going to read this because I want to make it abundantly clear. I'm just kidding. I would allow members to have the opportunity to meet and to meet individually with their staffs in order to give feedback and get with the administration. And in the meantime, also, just don't forget, we've got a Wednesday meeting as well that we'll set up to meet with directors. So just for that. Any objection to that on this item? No? Well, I'm not closing the meeting. I'm coming to you. But no objections to that on this item. And then with that being said, Vice Chairman, is that all? All right. I've got Councilman Ford. Yes, sir.
30 seconds. I want you to call Doug McGowan. I hope you're listening to me right now. I want to know where those homes, those properties that you just got through talking about, what zip code are they in? Because if those zip codes are where I think they are, how the hell you gonna put utilities on and I can't eat, I can't do this, and I can't do that? Be realistic again, okay? Because those properties, what you're talking about, yeah, I can go, hey, Vice Chair, I can go to Orange Mountain. I know a lot of people that live it, and they ain't had lights longer than that. Because they're trying to make it. I can't afford it. Now, let me go back. When I was growing up, hell, I didn't have no damn lights. I didn't have no running water. Okay, we were happy. But we didn't have none of those things. So that's why I said, let's see zip code. If you give me the zip code, I can tell you why. But how can they pay something in shucks? They can't got no lights. Why don't they have lights? They can't afford, okay? And I was brought up that way. We didn't have running water, no lights, no nothing. But we were very, very happy. When I got married, you know how these mamas and always say, hey, you got it very easy. I said, let me tell you something, mama. I said, we had no running water. We had a jug. You know how you got them water jugs out here, them little plastic ones? They used to be glass, okay? And when you had to come downtown and sign them glass bottles out, okay? Because that's what they made corn liquor in. But hey, I broke a hell of a lot of them, okay? Because we didn't have no water. We didn't have no utilities, no bathrooms, But I told my mama, she like Scott tissue she had in the house. I said, next time I come, you better have the softest doggone tissue that it is, because, hey, when you had to wipe your butt with newspaper, and when you had, places where the magazines and all that wasn't for reading. It was not for reading. A lot of y'all don't understand, don't know about that. But it was for other purposes, okay? But we were happy. If it wasn't for probably about 5 families that helped us, because, hey, I'm number 15, I don't know how we would have made it, but they bought us clothes, they bought us this, they bought, hey, when school started, they bought paper, they did this, they did that. This man was a truck driver. He drove from Memphis to California, but when he got back to Memphis, he gave his wife the check and said, "Shuck, I'm gonna rest a little bit and get back on the road now. You take care of all these people." And tell me, God ain't good. But that's the truth. You know, and a lot of people forget where they come from when they get something. But I never have, you know. But hey, I was happy because I have been there. You know? That's why I try to help so many people. I don't have to, but I do. But the more people that I help, the more blessings I get. Okay? You know, that's why I go across the street and tell that mayor, and I hope he's listening today, you know, because he's mad at me anyway. I don't care. Because, you know, they are wasteful. We are not over here. Okay? But they owe us. Okay? And I'm just being honest. They owe us. They've always gotten by. Okay? Things that we're supposed to do together, they never did their part. They always got by. But he can go and do some of these things that ain't got nothing to do with the county, with our money, okay? He can do all these things, and when people start getting them numbers, you get mad at a person, okay? And see, I'm having flashbacks. I don't want to keep having flashbacks, okay? That's why I say all these hating people, gotta get rid of them people.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm through because I'm just having bad flashbacks on people.
Thank you, Councilman.
You tell him that now.
Yes, sir. Dr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to know, as we're looking at trying to go with this proposal and talk about this proposal on June 2nd with amendments, I am going to bring a ordinance that will propose a definitive fee structure for all use of police department unofficially for profit and for-profit organizations to go to that line item for Fund 011. And I want to know how we can go ahead and consider this on the 2nd when we don't meet until the 11th for that ordinance to come into shape. So I just put that into your heads as we go forward. I don't have the answer to that question, but I think it's an important question that Councilwoman White brought up, that we don't know about that. I think we need to have that ordinance out there. So if we're going to be counting on it in the budget, we need to know what it's going to look like.
I want to, thank you, that's great. I will say this one broad question. I'm going to get you at it. Yeah, hold on. No, I'm the chair. I got it. So here's the deal. So remember, the budget's a living document. It's a living document. So the reality is that we can move, you can bring your ordinance and we can move and amend the budget at any time. So there's no, like, we literally could pass it on July 1 and change it on July 15th. Right? So my point is, don't get worried about the timing on the mechanics. So
the reason I bring it up is if we're going to be thinking about it, you know, I want us to at least, and if it's appropriate, I would like to bring at least a copy of that ordinance to that budget meeting so we can have something to talk about.
Yeah, you can bring a copy. I appreciate you making the announcement, but yes, and then we'll send it the ordinary course of business. And what I would suggest is you get it out and get it sent so it can be sent for first reading so you can get it going on the 10th. Yeah, so theoretically, if you started it on the 10th and you hit all your dates with same night minutes, you could have it passed and ratified by the first meeting in July. So you basically would hit the start of the year. Sorry, I didn't know, just too much going on. Are we good? All right. With that being said, again, thank you. I appreciate all of you. Get out of here. Have a wonderful weekend. Directors, please be available next